Most people think life changes in a single, grand, dramatic moment, but that's not how it really works. True, lasting transformation doesn't come from a huge, overnight leap. It comes from small steps taken every single day. It's not about becoming someone new in 24 hours, but about choosing to do one better thing today than you did yesterday. That's the difference between staying stuck and moving forward. These 10 small habits might seem simple at first glance, but don't mistake their simplicity for weakness. Each one is a powerful shift in perspective, one action, one choice, one repeatable behavior that can completely shift the way you show up in your own life. If you're tired of feeling like you're stuck on repeat or always chasing peace instead of living it, these habits are for you. Let's get into it. There's something subtle but powerful about how you start your day. Most people open their eyes and immediately reach for their phone. It's not even conscious anymore. It's automatic. Before their feet even touch the ground, they're scrolling through texts, emails, social media, notifications from the night before. And here's the truth. When you do that, you're starting your day reacting to other people's priorities, not your own. You're letting the outside world decide how you feel before you've even had a chance to decide for yourself. That morning scroll might feel harmless, but it hijacks your peace. It injects noise into the most quiet, sacred part of your day. Your brain doesn't get a chance to wake up slow, to breathe, to orient itself. Instead, it jumps into defense mode. Comparison, urgency, stress. You see somebody else's success, somebody else's crisis, somebody else's life, and before you've even said, "Good morning," to your own thoughts, you're tangled up in theirs. Now imagine this instead. You wake up, and your phone stays on the nightstand. You sit with yourself, even just for a moment. You stretch. You breathe. You open the window. You notice the light in the room. You let your own thoughts be the first voice you hear. You let your own heart speak before the world has a chance to interrupt. That small act of not reaching for your phone first. It sounds tiny, but it's massive. It says, "I own my time. I decide how this day starts." It's not about ignoring responsibilities or pretending life's not busy. It's about claiming those first few moments as yours. About putting your mind in a place of calm instead of chaos. About giving your soul a moment to be still before the world starts spinning fast again. You don't need a long meditation. You don't need a perfect routine. You just need presence. And presence can't be downloaded or scrolled through. It's experienced in real time, in silence, in breath, in the space between waking and doing. That space is where your clarity lives. That's where your peace starts to grow. And when you build your day on peace instead of panic, you change how you show up for everything else. Your energy feels different. Your choices feel different. Your sense of control over your life feels different. All because of one habit that nobody else sees, but you feel every time you do it. Making your bed every morning might seem like one of those things your parents used to nag you about when you were younger. A chore, a useless task, something that doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. But that's where most people miss the bigger picture. This habit is about so much more than a tidy blanket or fluffed pillow. It's about what you're telling your brain the moment your day starts. See, when you take a minute to make your bed, you're not just straightening out sheets. You're creating structure where there was none. You're creating order. You're creating a signal that says, "I care. I'm in control. I take responsibility for the little things." That matters. Especially in a world where everything can feel loud, messy, and unpredictable. This one action becomes your anchor. It reminds you that no matter how chaotic the outside gets, you still have authority over how you manage your space, your time, your energy. There's also a psychological shift that happens when you complete even the smallest task first thing in the morning. It's momentum. It's forward motion. It's proof that you can follow through. Because starting the day with one simple win sets the tone for more wins. It rewires your brain to believe, "I'm capable." And that belief snowballs into everything else you do. It shows up in how you treat your work, how you communicate, how you manage stress, how you move through conflict. It creates a mindset of ownership instead of passivity. When your environment feels like it's under your direction, your mind starts to believe that other areas of life can be too. And let's not overlook this. When you make your bed, you're returning to something later that feels calm and intentional. You're giving your future self a moment of peace. You're not walking into a room that screams of exhaustion and disorder. You're walking into one that whispers, "You did something good for yourself today?" That matters more than people think. It also builds trust with yourself. When you tell yourself you're going to do something small and you actually follow through, you build inner credibility. That's what a lot of people are missing: self-trust. They make big promises, set big goals, and then fall through because they haven't practiced keeping small promises to themselves first. And that's why this habit, this quiet little act of making your bed, is so powerful. It's not the bed, it's the rhythm, the consistency, the way it shifts you from sleep mode to intentional mode, from passive to proactive, from waiting for something to go right to choosing to make something right, even if it's just a corner of your blanket being tucked in perfectly. That small decision becomes the first domino that knocks down a whole chain of better decisions. And the beauty of it, you don't need motivation. You don't need an hour of free time. You don't need special skills. You just need a moment, a choice, and the willingness to take ownership of something you'd usually overlook. Most people don't realize how much their energy is affected by what they put into their body first thing in the morning. The first thing you consume in the day sets the tone not just for your mood, but for your mental clarity, your decision-making, your energy, even how you handle stress. And yet, for so many people, the first thing that hits their system is caffeine, a jolt of energy, a rush of stimulation. That cup of coffee becomes a lifeline, a ritual, a comfort. But there's something your body has been begging for long before it ever wanted caffeine: water. Pure, simple water. See, when you sleep, your body goes hours without hydration. You're fasting, you're exhaling moisture, your cells are drying out. So when you wake up, your body isn't asking for coffee, it's asking to be restored. It's craving hydration. And when you give it that first thing, before anything else, something powerful happens. Your brain starts to wake up more naturally. Your organs begin to function more efficiently. Your metabolism gets a signal that it's time to turn on. It's like you're slowly lighting the fire instead of throwing gas on it. But here's the real beauty of it. Choosing water before coffee is symbolic. It's a message to yourself that says, I care about what fuels me. You're no longer running on reflex. You're running on intention. You're no longer reacting to fatigue. You're supporting your body before the crash even hits. That one small decision communicates self-respect. It says you're not just trying to get through the morning. You're building a better one. And the physical benefits are just the start. When you hydrate first, your mind feels clearer. You're not masking dehydration with a caffeine high. You're not confusing stress for tiredness. You're actually meeting your needs instead of numbing them. You start to notice how different it feels to wake up and choose what your body really wants instead of what your habits have trained it to crave. And when you consistently make that choice, your entire relationship with your health starts to shift. You also begin to feel more grounded, more present. You don't start the day jittery, anxious, or overstimulated. You start it nourished. And in a world that constantly pushes us to hustle harder, do more, run faster, choosing water first is a quiet form of rebellion. It's you saying, I will start my day from a place of balance, not burnout. And that spills into everything else. You eat better. You think better. You breathe deeper. You become more in tune with your body and less dependent on quick fixes to keep you going. Because you're no longer chasing energy. You're cultivating it. All from one glass of water. All from one moment where you chose intention over habit. That moment might look small, but it's not. It's a ripple that turns into a wave. And over time, that wave shapes how you experience your day. Your focus, your strength, your patience. There's a kind of power that lives in silence. But most people never access it because their world is constantly loud. From the moment they wake up, there's noise, notifications buzzing, to-do lists screaming, conversations swirling, and thoughts racing faster than they can keep up with. That inner noise becomes so normal that stillness feels foreign, even uncomfortable. But here's the thing. When you never sit still, when you never pause, when you never breathe without reaching for a screen or filling the space with more input, you disconnect from something vital. You lose the ability to hear yourself, to hear your own thoughts without judgment, to feel your own emotions before they're drowned out by distractions. That's why practicing just 5 minutes of stillness every day is one of the most transformative habits you can build. Because in those 5 minutes, you're not doing anything for anyone else. You're not performing, achieving, explaining, or managing. You're just being. And that's rare. But it's also where clarity lives. Stillness isn't about shutting your mind off. It's not about sitting in a perfect meditation pose or trying to feel spiritual. It's about presence, about noticing, about paying attention to what's going on inside before the day rushes in and sweeps it all away. In those 5 quiet minutes, you get to notice the tension in your shoulders you've been ignoring. You get to catch the thoughts that have been repeating on a loop. You get to feel the heaviness or the hope or the ache that's been hiding under your business, and the beauty of it. Effect. You don't have to fix anything in that moment. You just have to be willing to be still long enough to face it. That's where the healing starts. Effect. That's where the awareness begins. When you learn to sit with yourself without judgment, without needing to distract or numb or escape, you start to build a deeper relationship with your own mind. And that relationship changes everything else. You stop reacting so fast. You stop speaking before thinking. You stop letting emotions run the show without understanding where they came from. You start catching yourself in the middle of a spiral and choosing a new path. And it doesn't take hours. It just takes consistency. 5 minutes of quiet, practiced daily, builds a muscle most people never train. The muscle of presence, of regulation, of choosing response over reaction. That's where your power grows. And it doesn't matter if you do it in a chair, on a walk, in your car, before work, or just sitting in your room with your eyes closed. What matters is that you show up for it, that you give yourself those few sacred minutes to return to center. Because when you get quiet, you start to hear what's true. You hear what's yours and what's been picked up from other people's opinions. You hear the difference between fear and intuition. You hear the quiet voice that gets drowned out in the noise of productivity and pressure. And when you learn to trust that voice, your decisions get clearer, your reactions get softer, and your inner world starts to feel like a place you actually want to live in fact, not run from. There's a moment that changes everything when you realize you don't have to say yes to everything just to be liked, accepted, or seen as a good person. It usually comes after a long stretch of burnout, when your time has been stretched too thin, your energy has been pulled in too many directions, and your peace has been quietly slipping out the back door. Learning to say no without guilt is one of the most important habits you will ever build. Not because it keeps people out, but because it keeps you whole. Somewhere along the way, many people were taught that saying no was selfish, that turning down an invitation, a favor, an expectation meant you weren't being kind or you were letting someone down. But the truth is, every time you say yes to something that drains you, you're saying no to something that matters more: your rest, your family, your health, your own priorities that have been sitting quietly on the shelf, waiting for you to finally make space for them. The guilt that creeps in when you start setting boundaries is natural, especially if you spent years people pleasing or believing that your worth is tied to how much you do for others. But guilt isn't always a sign you're doing something wrong. Sometimes guilt is just the echo of old conditioning. And if you can sit with that discomfort instead of running from it, you start to see that boundaries are not walls, they're doors. They don't push people away. They allow the right people to walk in through the right entrance, with the right energy, at the right time. And when you protect your time, your schedule, your emotional bandwidth, you're You're not just being selective. You're being wise. You're recognizing that your energy is a resource. And just like money, if you keep giving it away without intention, you end up bankrupt, tired, resentful, spread so thin you don't even recognize yourself. Saying no doesn't have to be loud or harsh. It can be soft. It can be kind. It can be honest. I appreciate you thinking of me, but I have to pass this time. That doesn't align with what I need right now. I'm not the best fit for that, but thank you. Simple, direct, respectful. You don't need a long explanation. You don't need to over-apologize. Your no is enough, and the more you practice using it, the more you begin to realize how much freedom it gives you. You stop overcommitting. You stop living on other people's timelines. You stop trying to be everything for everyone, and you finally start being present for yourself. That's where the shift happens. That's when your days start to feel lighter, not because your schedule magically got easier, but because you finally stopped saying yes to things that were never yours to carry. You also begin to attract people who respect your boundaries because they see you respecting your own. And the ones who get upset, the ones who try to guilt you or manipulate your time, they were never honoring your peace in the first place. They were just benefiting from your lack of it. And that's a hard truth, but a necessary one. When you start saying no, you stop betraying yourself just to keep the peace with others. You realize that self-respect doesn't require permission. It requires practice. And that practice of checking in with yourself before committing, of honoring your limits, of not rushing to rescue everyone around you, starts to create a life that feels aligned, grounded, and genuinely yours. It's easy to forget your progress when life moves fast. You wake up, check the time, run through tasks, get caught up in conversations, responsibilities, stress, and before you know it, the day is over and it feels like nothing really changed. You're left wondering if anything you did even mattered. That's why writing down just one win each day, just one, is such a powerful habit. It forces you to pause, to notice, to acknowledge that progress isn't always loud or dramatic. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's invisible to everyone else but you. But that doesn't make it any less real. It could be a conversation you handled with more patience than usual. It could be choosing to rest instead of pushing through. It could be resisting an old habit that no longer serves you. It could be making a decision that felt uncomfortable but right. And when you write it down, when you see it with your own eyes, it becomes evidence. Not just a thought. Not just a passing feeling. Evidence that you are showing up. You are growing. You are not stuck. You're moving even when it feels slow. What most people don't realize is how easily the mind forgets the good. You could have 10 things go right in a day and still fixate on the one thing that didn't. That's the brain's default wiring. It notices threats, it clings to problems, it rehearses mistakes. But when you develop the habit of writing down one win a day, you start retraining your brain to notice what's working instead of just what's broken. And that shift creates resilience. It builds inner strength. You begin to feel more capable, not because your life suddenly got easier, but because you stopped ignoring your own efforts. You stopped minimizing your own growth. You started giving credit where it's long overdue. Back to yourself. And that doesn't make you arrogant. That makes you accountable. It makes you aware of your own story, not just the struggle, but the strength it's built. This habit also creates a thread between your days. One win turns into a pattern turns into momentum, and momentum turns into belief. Belief in yourself, in your direction, in the fact that even the smallest step forward still counts. It keeps you from collapsing under the weight of perfectionism, because now, progress isn't measured by how much you achieve, but by how much you notice and honor the process. It's no longer about big, flashy milestones. It's about consistency, effort, intention. And when you can end your day knowing there was something, no matter how small, that you did well, you go to sleep differently. You rest with a sense of dignity instead of defeat. You wake up with purpose instead of pressure. That shift is subtle, but it's everything. It's the difference between surviving your life and actually feeling connected to it. Even on hard days, Especially on hard days, this habit becomes your anchor. Because even if everything felt off, even if your emotions were heavy or your energy was low, the act of finding just one win reminds you that you are still in motion. That you are still learning, still pushing forward, still holding on to the thread of who you're becoming. And the beautiful thing is, the more you do it, the easier it becomes to see those wins as they're happening, not just in hindsight. You start living with a little more awareness, a little more self-compassion, a little more intention. And slowly, day by day, you stop needing outside validation because you've built a quiet, powerful habit of witnessing yourself and honoring the progress that nobody else sees. When you really think about it, life doesn't change in one giant moment. It changes in the small, quiet, repeated choices you make every single day. It's in the decisions that nobody claps for, the moments no one sees, the times when you choose growth over comfort, discipline over distraction, presence over pressure. These 10 small habits aren't just about being productive or improving your routine. They're about honoring yourself enough to be intentional with how you live. Because how you live matters. How you show up matters. The way you treat your time, your body, your energy, your thoughts, it all speaks. And the truth is, you don't need to overhaul your whole life to feel different. You just need to start small. One habit, one shift, one step forward. What makes these habits powerful isn't that they're hard. It's that they're consistent. They build muscle in your mindset. They remind you that you are not powerless, no matter what life throws your way. You get to choose how you respond. You get to shape your environment. You get to protect your peace. And when you begin to trust yourself with the small things, something shifts deep within you. You start to walk a little taller. You start to speak a little clearer. You start to breathe a little deeper. And that kind of growth, it ripples out into your relationships, your work, your confidence, your future. The world will always push you to go faster, do more, stretch thinner. But real transformation is quiet. It's built in the background, while no one's watching. And it starts when you decide that who you are becoming is worth the effort. So give yourself that effort. Give yourself that chance. Start with what you can. Start with what's in front of you. And let these small habits carry you into the kind of life that doesn't just look good, but feels aligned, steady, and deeply your own.